Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Post your creepy driving stories. Driving at night or day, see/hear something. Car is somewhere where it shouldn't be, etc. I'll start. Be 2 years ago. Be like 11 at night, pitch black, no moon. I am driving my 3 friends to one of their houses. Lives out of town, never took him home, in an area that I've never been before. I'll probably get lost, but do anyways. Starts telling stories about how messed up the area is. Local myth about Goat Man nearby. Rabid dogs just stare at you as you drive by with blood dripping from their teeth. An abandoned house that has one light on all of the time. Ghosts haunting that road, smelling smoke and hearing whispers. I guess from a house fire many years ago, etc. Drop them off, turn around to go home, get spooked, so turn off the radio, go slow, and try to chill. Start hearing noises in the car with me. Think I see things in the brush. Get lost because the area is weird. I swear there is whispering on the way back to my car. Driving an SUV. Nope, tiff out of there, just to a main road. All of a sudden, I am just in a familiar area again. After my phone was not working, trying to call the friend to ask him where I was and how to get out. I know it is not creepy, but the best I have. What are yours?
This happened a few years ago when I lived in Tennessee. Driving home from Memphis to Nashville. Be about 3 a.m. Halfway home, I realized I forgot to get gas. Take exit with the scant hope that I'll find a gas station that's open. Drive about 10 miles and come upon a Sunoco. Pull up to pump, ding ding. The attendant runs out from the garage and promptly begins fueling my car. Feeling pretty confused since full-service stations are rare, and one being open this late is flat out weird. The attendant starts making small talk with me. I mentioned how odd it is that they're open at this time of night. His demeanor changes from affable to wary. Things get silent and awkward. That'll be $19. Hand him my debit card. He stares at it, puzzled. What am I supposed to do with this? Explain I have no cash, only a debit card. He just stares at me. Well, don't worry about it, this one's on the house. Thank him and get back on the highway. 2 weeks later, I'm passing back through the area. Get off at the same exit. Follow the road to where the gas station was, intending to pay for the gas I got and thank them for being so helpful. Pull into a lot. The place is dilapidated. Looks like it's been abandoned for about 30 years. Get super creeped out and head back for the highway.
This one happened when I was still in high school. My best friend wants me to spend the weekend at his house for some Smash Bros. Melee. It had just came out. Call my parents and tell them I'll be back Sunday. We go out and go to the mall, movies, etc., waste time all day. Starts getting late by the time we're done running around. Stop by McDonald's for some late-night snacks. Start heading to his house. About to get on the highway, we start seeing a long-ass traffic jam, and he's like, "Screw this, we'll take the back road." It's now midnight. Get to the back road. No moonlight, fog, no houses, no neighborhoods, nothing but woods. Up way ahead, we notice a fire off in the woods. We look at each other and decide to stop by and see why there's a fire in the middle of nowhere. Park off the road, lock the car, and head towards the fire. Keep walking and we start noticing how there's no animals making any kind of noise near us. Only noise we hear is the fire crackling. As we get closer, we start hearing brush moving up ahead and we call out, "Hey, anyone need help or anything? We noticed the fire, etc." The brush stops moving and nobody responds. We got to the clearing where the fire was, but there's nobody there at all. No equipment or tools. We look at each other and yell out again, in silence. Suddenly we hear some noise again in the bushes and this odd, shrill noise comes out. A friend grabs some rocks and tosses them in the bushes, hits something, and we hear a yelp which suddenly turns into an angry roar/shrill/scream. We book it to the car while hearing whatever the hell it was running after us. Unlock the car, run in, lock the doors. Thing chases us but doesn't come out of the brush but keeps sounding pissed, still making that same scream over and over again. We kept trying to see WTF was chasing us, but all we saw were red glowing eyes around 5 or 6 feet off the ground. Never will forget that scream.
Everyone I tell this to says it never happened, but I know it happened, Be December 14th, 2009. I've had my license for 3 years now, driving down George Washington Parkway at around 1 a.m., south towards Mount Vernon. One friend with me returning home from a road trip. Not tired one bit because we slept in a motel until just after noon the day before. Be the only car on the road for at least 10 minutes. All of a sudden we both see a candlelight in the distance. As we get closer, we can tell it is moving toward us but on the river side of the road. When we get within about 50 yards of it, we can both clearly see that it is a man on a horse with 2 more men behind him. No way anyone would ride a horse down the trails at that time of day. Both me and my friend are just as confused. We talked about it until I dropped him off at his house a few streets away from Mount Vernon. When I wake up later, I'm really curious, so I go to Mount Vernon and ask the gift shop person if anyone was preparing for a reenactment or anything, because it wasn't far, and that's the only explanation I could think of. She says they only train for them during the early mornings, but not 1 a.m. early, and they don't use horses at all. Talk to one of the historians there and find out December 14th was the day George Washington died. Even they don't believe me. Nobody has ever reported seeing apparitions on the parkway.
Driving through Arizona on the I-40 going coast to coast with 4 friends for winter break. It's mid-December around 2 a.m., starting to get a little drowsy. Suddenly radio reception gets weird, not staticky. More like it was picking up a bunch of channels at the same time, sounding like 20 people having different conversations. Suddenly headlights start reflecting off something in the distance. Looks like 2 birch trees. In the middle of the road. Can't see the top of what it was, everything is pitch black outside of headlight range. Get closer. It's a pair of legs extending into the sky. They are colorless, completely white. Don't know what to do. I'm the only one awake. Honk the horn. They move. The legs lift up in a stepping manner and go off the left side of the road. I'm still driving, crying out of fear. The radio is still freaking out. I sped up, driving well over the speed limit for about an hour till I reach a gas station, wake everyone up, tell them what happened. They all laugh it off and don't believe me. Get out to fill the car while friends go in for snacks in the bathroom. Go to open the gas cap when I see something on the roof. 2 red footprints. Refuse to drive at night for the rest of the trip, showing my friends the footprints. Radio in the car was broken, so I had to buy a new one. I never drive past 11 o'clock these days unless it's an emergency.
Okay, this one happened a long time ago. I don't think about it much anymore. It's just a distant memory that in time will only get more distant. About 6 years ago, 21 nighttime, 10-ish p.m., out of town driving from Alabama to my girlfriend's house in Tallahassee, alone driving my parents' V6 Taurus. A very regular car, but sport PKG and capable enough for most situations. Had talked to my girlfriend a few hours earlier, would be coming late and probably go straight to bed, so don't wait up or anything. Maybe between 45 to 70 miles from I-10, hard to remember. And after it happened, I really didn't want to think about it much. Visibility starts to lower, light fog picking up in a rather hilly area. The terrain drops off rather steep, at least to the right of the road that I can see, so I'm starting to go a little slower, being more aware. Get a bad feeling. Not a scared feeling or necessarily worried, just a deep, uneasy feeling. What the hell is behind me? Staring in the rearview mirror at a lanky humanoid figure in the middle of the road behind me where I was just driving through. It's not moving, it's just kind of hanging out, non-threatening. It's right in front of me. I got too caught up looking at that thing behind me and wasn't paying attention and swear I see the same lanky figure right in front of me and I'm about to run it right over. Lock up brakes, start to pull e-brake, and car pulls left, sliding. Most days when I think about this, I am able to tell myself that this figure, just skimmed the tip of my bumper and it's sheer luck that I did not collide with it. But every so often I get on and /X/kick and start to remember that ever so vivid vision of that figure slicing right through the hood, through the engine block of Mom and Pop's old Ford. I'm almost 180 degrees turned around now. The car has come to a stop. My mind is racing and my heart is going even faster. For starters, if I need to call an ambulance, I don't even know where I am. And I hadn't seen anything in miles. Not even any other cars. I want to get out and see if this guy thing is okay. The logical, responsible action, but I'm just about paralyzed with fear and adrenaline. And now I could see it. The driver's side headlight is just illuminating this man wearing a long, tight shirt. In my head, it reminds me of like a pirate costume shirt, but I don't know. Long arms, long legs, long neck accentuated by oversized collar. Starts tilting head sideways like a confused dog does, and I just start to think it's some asshole being a jokester when the figure gets bigger, like closer or taller, but it's not moving, it's just gaining. Nope, pop the glove box to retrieve nickel .45 of Liberty. Not there. The goddamn piece isn't there. Immediately in tears, shock, literally shouting in my car in amazement/despair with probably a little bit of subconsciously trying to make noise to maybe scare this thing away. I'm jumping all around in my seat. I was very seriously going nuts, freaking right out there in the middle of the road. Left hemisphere takes control. Drop transmission into R and peel right on out. At this point, I'm technically looking forward, but my eyes are fixated on the rear view. Like tunnel vision, not letting myself look where I was just looking seconds ago. The car's maxing out at about 29 miles per hour in reverse, and I cut the wheel like a bat out of hell. I don't know how I did it, but I swung the car properly and got into drive so fast I surprised myself. The car got a little off the road, and there was only another 2 or 4 feet, until the about 15-plus foot drop into a ditch that would easily total the car and quite possibly kill me. But I made it. I didn't look back, I just shut it out and went. During the turn, I heard a familiar thud from the glove, and after I started decelerating a few minutes later and peeled my white-knuckled hand off the wheel, I checked, and sure enough, the .45 was in there. The only other thing was some napkins and a little envelope containing car documents. I have no idea how I couldn't have seen it before when I looked. I was just thankful and relieved that, yes, it was there now, and I somehow escaped whatever sure death was only a few minutes prior. The fog lightened up, but I was definitely still spooked and really in no condition to do shit. All I wanted to do was to be in bed with my girlfriend, but as soon as I found some civilization, I pulled into a lit parking lot of a grocery market. I was starting to see cars sporadically on the road and feeling more safe. I climbed into the back seat of the car with my piece and covered myself in my jacket. Nodded out, no bad dreams or anything. Woke up to a sunny day and felt so much better. Like everything was okay. Made it to my girlfriend's before lunch. Told her I almost got into an accident and had to pull over. Omitted spookies. We would eventually break up, so she never heard the real story, and now she never will.
Be maybe 14, living in northwestern Australia. Middle of nowhere small mining town. Hunting kangaroos at night because that's all there is to do. Driving out in the bush, in places it's dense, others not so much. Perfect dark night shining the spotlight looking for the eye shine of the roost. Friend tells me of this creature that has bright red eyes, and if you mistake it for a roo and shoot it, it will kill you, and if you see it, it will haunt you. He's an aboriginal and knows his spirits. Calls the creature Featherfoot. Scared because I'm a teenager, driving through a dry creek bed without the lights on. Look out the window and see a bright pair of eyes staring back. Neck minute. 3 other sets of these orange-colored eyes start to glow. Nope, out of there. Show friend. He nopes and raises his rifle. I shine the spotlight over. The cows looking at us like, "Da fook, bro? What the hell?"
Be back when I was a teenager and just got my license. Going for a night drive to get some burgers and possibly do some other stuff. Get my burgers and decide to take a trip slightly out of town on this old roadway I'd seen before. Start driving there. It takes a few minutes to get out of town. Notice nobody on the roads. Think nothing of it. Finally get to the road. It's an old dirt road that winds through these trees. Start driving around on the roads. It's getting really rough the deeper I get into the trees. See a light ahead. Notice it's a house. Drive past it, but get this eerie feeling about it. Finally, get to the end of this road. It ends in some makeshift cul-de-sac that overlooks some rocks. No guardrails or anything can possibly see how someone can drive off the place. Drive back while eeriness comes back. Driving on the road and approaching the house prior. See the lights are off, but can clearly see 2 outlines of bodies. The creepy factor is in full force, and I fear for my life. Decide to floor it and get out. In my rearview mirror, I can see these outlines running towards my car as I'm speeding away. Get out of that place and go home, shaking for some reason. 2 weeks later, they found out about a murder there, but the date wasn't available. Said the house belonged to an old person. Apparently somebody broke in, stole some things, saw the old person and killed them.
Be a few years ago, driving through the Piliga scrub. It's about 2 a.m. There's no moon out. See something odd on the side of the road in the distance. As I get closer, realize it's something hunched over. It looks up at the car. I has reflective eyes, like a cat. This thing stands up. It's about 9 feet tall and more pale than a British redhead. It's sort of human-like, but its arms and legs are out of proportion. Its mouth is covered in blood. Slow down and grab my .270 rifle. This thing hoofs it into the scrub, disappears before I can get a shot. Look at what it was hunched over. It's a body of a bloke. His guts are hanging out and his neck is all ripped up. Nope, out of there at well over the speed limit. Now here's the worst part. I went to the cops and told them everything that happened. I went with them to show them where it was. But when we got there, the body was missing, but there was a trail of blood leading into the scrub. We all knew what had happened and were out within minutes. Screw the Piliga.
One time when I was 12, and in the back seat of the car with my 2 sisters, we were driving back home after one of our parents' late-night parties. We were going through a tiny little Australian town in the snowy mountains called Barradale. I swear to God, nothing exciting has ever happened there. And I was falling asleep pretty quickly. I half woke up when I heard Dad suck his breath in and accelerate like a madman. My sisters and I looked up and saw a man in the middle of the highway just wrapped up in a white sheet and stumbling down the middle of the road towards us. I guess Dad did not want to risk anything with his family in the car with him, so he floored it and swerved around this guy. The weird part, though, is that when we swerved past him, he stretched out his hands as if to grab the car as we drove past. Not a nice way to wake up.
Many years ago, I was on what is called a meet and turn. This is where a driver that is domiciled out of one city will drive a load halfway to its destination, while a driver domiciled out of that destination will drive halfway with a load that is destined for my city. We meet in a parking lot, switch trailers and drive back home. I had been on this run for a few months and found that I always got to the meet point about an hour before the other driver. It was a dark and empty dirt lot at about 3 a.m., so I would stretch out across the seat and take a short nap. One night, about 10 minutes into my nap, I was awoken by a barking dog. I tried to ignore it, but it carried on for several minutes and got louder as the dog got closer. Soon it became apparent that the dog was right outside of my truck, barking at me. Okay, either this dog is Lassie and is trying to alert me to something, or else he is just a pain in the ass and I will need to throw something at him to scare him off. It is important to note that the barking had been going on for a good 10 minutes at this point, so I sat up and looked out my window. Standing there, mere inches on the other side of the glass, was a man of about 35. He was a large fellow and was barking at me. His eyes were crazy and he was frothing at the mouth a little. The scene really held my full attention for a moment. The sheer creepiness of this struck me. Gently, and making an absolute minimum of sudden movements, I reached down and started my truck and slowly pulled away. He chased me, much like you might expect an angry dog to do, barking all the while. I drove for 2 minutes and he still sounded like he's running right behind me. That's when I realized he was on the truck.
A thing that once happened when I just had got my license. One has to be 18 here in Winland. Me and my pal were driving around our hometown, small, like under 10,000 people. Occasionally smoking, listening to AC/DC and all the likes. Anyways, around midnight we happened to drive through a road and a rabbit ran across it. We paid no attention to it, who would, and kept driving. As the town was small, it wasn't long until we hit the same road from the same direction again. That rabbit ran across the road in the same exact spot. This time we got a tad curious, drove round the block and to the same spot again, the rabbit once again. This happened 4 or 5 times. On the 6th or 5th time we drove there was nothing, so we decided to stop and check the tracks. There was only one set of them. After that, we decided to call it a night after a short run and in a different area of the town. While driving over a speeding bump, we saw a rabbit run towards us through some yards. We stopped because of curiosity. The rabbit stopped immediately, dead on its tracks, eyes us for round 5 minutes, not kidding, checked from clock, and slowly hops away while still occasionally stopping and eyeing us. Not that creepy now, but that night, man.
Never posted any of mine, might as well tonight. 19 years old. I live in Iowa, 3 a.m. Radio doesn't work because my truck blows. Coming home for winter break. Take the exit ramp. It's dark for a clear night. Trees are creepy. All the lights are off in the farmhouses I drive by. Snow flurry begins to happen. On a lonely stretch, catch a glimpse of dark bodies moving in the snow. Slow down. Flash my lights thinking it's deer. It is. Breathe a sigh of relief. Always afraid I'm going to hit someone there, even at night. 2 deer in the road prancing in an S-shaped motion. Very coordinated. They pass by each other with a consistent rhythm. Follow them, waiting for them to get out of the way so I can keep going. After 5 minutes, they don't seem to be interested. I begin to accelerate a bit to get them to move. They keep the pace all the way up to about 45 miles per hour. They both run alongside me a moment and veer off into the tree lines. Sometime later, on summer break, my friend and I go to Eagle City. Old Town used to have a post office and everything, isolated in the deep country. No town for miles either way. Abandoned and supposedly the site for Satanists and meth addicts. Bring a voice recorder inside a sealed bag. Going to listen in on a spot we'd found on an earlier scout. It's an old recreational park enclosure. Place recorder inside bag and in the rafters. Leave and decide to come back the next day. Return around noon. Signs of a large fire that night. The recorder and bag are missing. About 3 months after the above story. Long autumn, leaves still on most trees. Driving home from a friend's house at night. I still have no radio because I'm cheap. Singing church hymns because this road makes me very nervous. Clutching my rosary like it might actually save me. Generally a very uneasy sort of tension, that electric feeling creeping up and down my back. Trying to remain calm and level-headed. Round a particular blind corner in my truck. Going slow because the truck bed is light. There is a man in a ratty plaid shirt standing in the ditch. Hair was cut short, black and stubby. Can't see his face, at a near panic. Look down mournfully at the rosary in my hand and roll down the passenger side window. Ask him if he's okay. I knew plenty of people who lived along this road. Doesn't answer or turn to face me. A voice inside me screaming, "Run, you goddamn fool." Drive a little past him, trying to see his face. He turns so that his back is always to me. Slam my boot onto the accelerator and never look back.
Not my nope, but I'm sure I was the cause of some other's nope. Be 16 or 17. Be boozing it up with my buddy one night, driving some back roads near the boonies. We decided to explore this one area that the road goes off over a railroad track into a pretty spooky area. There was just random crap thrown in places, not sure if land was private property or not, and pretty sure a hobo lived on the other side of the tracks. Anywho, being drunk, I decided to bring a werewolf, or some sort of goblin mask, and a bat. Nothing great found while exploring. May have set off a few fireworks. Decide to go back to my friend's car. Being drunk, decide I will use this opportunity to piss friend, takes off in the car. Him being drunk and thinking it would be hilarious to make me think he's bailed. This particular road has a creepy abandoned school, not too far off from where we were. We had explored it with some girls. I went in beforehand to hide and scare them. School had all sorts of crap scattered on the floor, empty desks up against the wall, just generally creepy. Finish up piss, know that my friend will come back, so I plan to scare the crap out of him by wearing a mask and jumping out in front of him with the bat cocked and looking like I mean business. See headlights approach. I bunker down, not planning to pounce until I see the white of his eyes, type ambush style. Lights get closer and closer. This is my moment. Jump in front of a car, trying to look as terrifying as possible with said mask and bat. It's not my friend's car. The face when some man in a mask holding a bat is in the middle of nowhere on one of the creepiest streets around. I stand dumbfounded as I hear the wheels screech to swerve while the gas is punched as the car tries to get out of there. I stand in the middle of the road as another pair of headlights approach. It's my friend, and he's laughing hysterically. He saw the entire thing. We book it out of there so we don't get busted for drunk driving, underage drinking assault with a deadly weapon tomfoolery. Good times.
I haven't told this story before. So 7 or 8 years ago, I was working in Indiana, living in a hotel. 2 co-workers were from Michigan and went home to their wives every weekend. But this week, one of them stayed in Michigan, so the other one needed a ride. I offered. We hung out with guys from work for a while before we left, and now I'm driving north at like 3 a.m. It's the middle of summer, clear, cool and bright. I had a classic car with the radio disconnected and weak headlights, but the high beams were bright. We're in the middle of nowhere, and the high beams have been on forever since all we've seen is corn and road for like an hour. The windows are down, and I'm wide awake, totally relaxed, on autopilot. You know how sometimes you think something happens and you're not sure if it really happened or you imagined it? Well, I think the right headlight flickered. It caught my attention, and I took that 1 second to kind of wake up and wonder if it really happened. My coworker had been awake, though I hadn't looked over or said anything for a long time, so I was going to ask him if the headlight had flickered. But I was still in that 1 second window where I was processing the information. Like, it happened. I started to furrow my brow, and there was a white figure dead in the middle of the lane. I could swear it was a girl in a white dress, but I remember no details other than white. You'd think I could remember her hair color or something, but there's just nothing there in my memory except for a white figure. Now we're going 75 miles per hour, so there's no hope that I'll get my sluggish old car out of that lane in time. But I had to do something. I cranked the wheel to the left and my car leaned right and lurched over. I closed my eyes instinctively right before the impact. Right now, as I remember it, she was so close, lit up so bright in that right headlight. I'm tearing up right now, remembering that instant before I closed my eyes. But there was no impact. I should have hit her before my eyes completely closed, but instead there was a moment of complete silence before the tires started squealing. Then there was scraping, thumping, and forces in every direction as the car spun over concrete and dirt. I should have been trying to control it, but I was just squeezing my eyes shut and hanging on. When it all stopped and I opened my eyes, the rear tires were barely on the road, and the headlights were about a foot away from a fence, illuminating the corn stalks behind it. As I backed up, I overcame the initial shock of the situation and, realizing that we'd yet to be harmed, started getting really scared of the white figure. I buried the pedal and picked up speed for a few seconds before driving over a load of grass and noticing the skid marks. Realizing we were going the wrong direction and getting more scared by the millisecond, I hit the brakes as hard as I could with my left foot to slow the car and whip around. My passenger started straight up squealing in terror like "Rrrr" as this happened. When I whipped it left, his squeal went up sharply, sort of like a "rrrr," and stopped as, I don't even want to believe it, but I saw the white girl illuminated back in the corn stalks on the side of the road, maybe 10 feet back, with her mouth wide open, screaming at me. Again, it was so fast that I didn't really even process anything. No sound, no details of the girl. But I was terrified and I planted my right foot. My whole body ached as the tires spun and slowly got the car moving. Once we got going, we moved. I had that old car screaming along, shaking like all hell. It developed a pretty bad vibration at just over 100. After a while, I slowed down to about 85 and cruised at that speed for maybe an hour before we sort of got back to civilization.
2005. B-15. Driving alone in a rural area. No one cares in our town as long as you can drive properly. Going to the grocery store, I have to cut through a large empty field used for agriculture in the summer. Looking up at the moon, it was full. Notice a perfect circle-shaped cloud. Wait, what? Pull over very quickly. Grab binoculars from the glove box. Now I'm messing with my binoculars trying to focus them before I actually put them in my eyes. They were visibly unfocused, with one lens further out than the other. Focus lenses. Hold binoculars up to a perfect circle cloud. See flashes of orange for a second. Now I see the yellowish color of the moon. Put binoculars down. The circle cloud is gone. I had shivers for the rest of the entire night.
Driving home one day late in a rural county. Crops and shit everywhere, so you can't really see much but the street. Driving and driving and driving when I see someone in the middle of the road. Some guy with tattered clothes is just standing there. He turns around and starts walking towards my truck, mouth gaping open. His skin is almost gray-purple and his eyes are legit glazed over. I crack my window and scream out, "Hey, back up!" He's still shambling towards me. "I'm warning you, back up!" Suddenly he stops and breaks into a full sprint, running towards my truck, howling like a banshee. Slam it in reverse until I'm a good 30 feet from him. Put it in drive and run his ass over. I don't stop driving. I go 70 until I get home. I don't know what the hell happened, but I did what I did and nobody knows.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.